Hey everyone, it's so good to be back. It is the second edition of that Rugby Union Show. I'm Polanjinga, and yeah, what a journey it's fast becoming. Let's hope you're helping to get the word out there as well. Give us a like, give us a share if you like what you see, and do join in the comments, guys. We want to know what it is you want to know about. So make sure that you comment, make sure that you subscribe, and tell us which direction you want to see this show go. We had Brayton Bolsa on for the first show, and what a pleasure to be on with this sheer utter Springbok legend. And we're going to go from one to the other. We've got somebody who I think has been referred to as a rugby guru, coaching genius. All of these names are synonymous with none other than Swys de Bruin. Coachy,
Hello, X.
what a pleasure, Swys, to see you. We haven't caught up in quite some time. I'm glad that you're chilling at home and comfortable. How's your family before we start?
All good, all good. You know, we live down in Paul now, in a beautiful part of the world. I'm back with SA Rugby, and the family is good. We've got the grandkids down the road. My son is now with Boys Eye. He's director of rugby, so very blessed to have everyone around.
Oh, that's amazing. And I'm sure enjoying the grandkids as well. But this decision to rejoin SA Rugby is one that I have been following with great interest. I was so happy when I heard the announcement. And we'll talk about where you are currently. But where did it start for you, Swys? Because I think for a lot of professional rugby coaches, it starts at school, right?
X, I often get that question, where does it start? Where did the break happen? You know, so for me, it was back in 19, a lot of the viewers they wait too young, but it started back in 1995, 96, where I was a teacher at Afrikaans Hoër Durban Noord. It's now got a new name, Durban North College. But it all started there, you know, with my rugby there, my coaching there. We were very fortunate in those years. I remember the late Ian McIntosh stayed right across the school, and he was often coming down and discuss stuff with me. But we had a very small school in numbers, and we were really doing well. I remember we were beating Northwood away, and they could only play at our first team. We only had about 23, 25 guys in the open group, and we had to go and play away. And we beat Glenwood away. Topi Hortop was the coach then from Glenwood, and we had a very good result against Michael House and Hilton. And then I got a phone call from Brian van Sale asking me, listen, it's time to move on. I was coaching then at Glenwood Old Boys first team as well, club rugby at their side. But I got the call from the Natal Rugby Union in 1997. Would you come and have a coffee? And they offered me a full-time job as a coaching coordinator and a full-time coach. And my first team was John Smith, Jaco van der Westhuys, and Tricky Welsh, and all those guys. And we won the national thing the year afterwards. So I was very blessed to be at the right time, and I was still want to go back to those schoolboys in that year that bought into the way I want to play the game and the way they saw it. And it's a bit of a miracle that such a small a school can go to the top schools and beat them. And the reward or the result was from that. We want to offer you a job then it was the Natal Rugby Union. I'll never forget, I drove back from that interview with Brian van Sale or the coffee over the Ngeni River back to my school. And I was so thankful, and I had 3 Chesterfields. I was smoking at that stage 24 years ago. We all had, and I took those cigarettes and chucked them littering in the Ngeni River. And that was my sign of almost new life, new opportunity, new career. And yeah, the rest is history. But that's where it started. It was from schoolboy rugby. That's my passion. And we really got the best out of the best with those boys. Robert de Prius, his stepson, was playing, MG Nel is his name. He played fly off for me.
Yeah.
So it was just a wonderful thing. And I picked guys in that team from grade 7 every year to matric to make sure that when they matric, I've got a senior team. But those were the glory days for me. And if I often think back of rugby, and I was blessed with all different teams. That team was so special for me, because they fought way beyond their expectation, and they were fantastic.
And that's my question, because I'm assuming that's where your personal philosophy started with rugby. In South Africa, we do put a lot of emphasis on physicality, on strength, on scrum, set piece, and not to say that you don't think those things are important, but you think about the game very differently to a lot of local coaches. You think about space a lot. What was it? What was the catalyst? What was the moment where you looked at a game plan and thought, yeah, man, we're not necessarily doing the best we can. And while you answer that, coach, I'd like you to bring in and think about how it is you managed to overcome these big sides. And I think probably you'd say there was a lot of trickery, especially at schoolboy level, that you'd have to engage in. You'd have to outsmart the opposition, whether it's a quick line-out throw or, I don't know, numbers in the line out or whatever it is. And I think there's a lot of value to that, especially when you're teaching youngsters about the laws and how you can use them in your advantage.
Yeah, I think what happened those days, being the smallest, and you had to think outside the box, and that's where I think my appreciation for keeping the ball and playing, and not what I hear now, playing the right areas. For me, the right areas in my 22, I've got the ball, because then they think we're going to kick. Then they've got three guys back, and if they've got three
Yeah,
guys back, it's got two yellow cards. And keeping the ball. Added to that, get the philosophy of playing fearless, and we loved it. And now the varsity cup these days, you get extra bonus point for a long distance try, and I used to give them big praise in the 90s for every long distance try. So the boys were right up there, and knowing that we want to play, and when it's on, we play, and from everywhere, and then the quicker the ball and the higher the intensity, the better. And we trained accordingly those years.
Yeah, that seems to be a thing. And you mentioned Ian McIntosh, and Master, as everybody called him, was also a stickler for scoring. I think his thing was, what was it, 4 tries in a match? If you want to not necessarily guarantee a win, but to know that you're in with a shout. And I'm going to bring it back to the SA women's team as well, and the tries that this team is currently scoring. Is that something that you think you picked up from Ian Mack?
Yeah, just to come back to Ian McIntosh per se, I was very fortunate to have a mentor like him. And my first office was right next to him at the downstairs there at Natal Rugby Union. So all his philosophies, all his ideas, I was first hand to pick up. And whenever a New Zealand team came, I was the one to have to go and spy and sit and hide behind and get some video clips and stuff and listen to what they're saying, and then run into Mac and say, I've got them, they're going to do this and that. Are you sure? And then we go through that. And he used to take me on away trips then as a youngster with an old big camera and sit behind the poles. And then he would say, just have your camera on Steve Atherton or John Allen or one of those. And then afterwards we would discuss it. So he was a great man. He was a trendsetter for me, and he was unreal. I was fortunate. The late Piet Strydom was a big mentor of mine. His son was in those teams that I coached at that school, Afrikaans Oor. And so Piet Strydom had a massive influence on my life as well, especially not just on the field, but off the field as well. But very fortunate. I had the guys like Garth Giles, the late Koos Bekers. A lot of guys won't know him, but what an inspirational guy. So that's why I think they taught me the passion to be a mentor now for the next generation. And the last couple of years, I've done 68 schools, coaches, uh, working them through my coaching and my modules and my stuff, just to share my passion with them. And it all started with those legends that are not with us anymore. I don't think people realize how great was Ian Mack, with these so-called direct rugby, and with Butch James and Honeyball and those guys. He was just inspirational, and I learned so much from him. I was really, as I said, it was for me just a big blessing to be part of those guys, and really, as a young teacher, be exposed to all that.
Yeah, and I think whenever I've heard you talk about coaching, you refer to, I suppose, the rugby equivalent of what Holland refers to in soccer, they always like to talk about total football, and you always like to talk about total rugby. So I can see great parallels there. And you speak about that 1990s Sharks team that was so successful in the Currie Cup. I think from 1990, they won a couple in a row. You had guys like Sean Sowerby running the ball all of a sudden. The loose forwards are linking up a lot better with the backs. You don't have necessarily very big guys out wide. It's like a Bose van der Westhuizen, but he's scoring tons of tries. Is that something that you own, that you always think of when you come across a new group of guys or girls that you're coaching, the total rugby philosophy?
Yes, I think my biggest thing, if we talk about total rugby, what is total rugby? It's to express yourself. I will use the analogy, like if you start, you've got 10 guys playing soccer in a park, take away the soccer ball, give them a rugby ball, what would you teach them? And I remember I wrote a little book then about the principles of the rugby, and the very first one was how to beat your man. And I'll never forget one day speaking about Ian Mack driving home, he said, Swys, I've got the answer. I said, what is it? I thought this is going to be a massive thing. We shouldn't pass the ball. You can only pass to a guy who's in a better position. You should beat your man. And that for me, that stuck. That stuck, and that became for me the first principle. You got to go forward and beat your man. And as every guy can do that, you can start playing rugby. So your mindset is not on what I see so much now with overstructure and all these various different things. And the coaches try and work out and be clever. They want to use 20 ladders to get over a wall instead of one or two. And, it's not just a case of simple is better. It's just that those two ladders that you get over must be so basic, and everyone must understand it. And then play for the love of the game, and that's where spaces come in. Before I go structure, I teach them where's the 5 spaces, where's the nearest way to the try line, what happens if the wings are up. So once you understand on the field, there's always 5 spaces available. And if you understand those, I don't want to get too technical now. That's my whole philosophy I build around that, to get decision makers and communicators to identify the spaces. And once they understand that, and then rugby becomes fun. Because I would like to play in a lot of teams today, honestly, where it's just structure and game plan, and then here play in the right areas and this and that. I go crazy. For me, it's you got to play where they don't expect it. I used to say to Faf de Klerk here, you need to break 4 times in a game or tap and play 4 times. I said to the wingers, I want 3 quick throw-ins. I set certain things out there that would encourage them to play fearless and have a go. Yeah, and I always say the old story, I think you've heard it before. I'd rather beat a team with 48-46. Like we beat one of my last tests with the Boks in Wellington, we beat them 36-35 rather than 10-9 or 14-15. So for me, it's a game. And my wife was netball coach and Natal School's netball coach for years, and I've almost followed her philosophy of how quick can we play and how exciting can we play and how fearless can we play. And once the players understand that, enjoy that, it's just a different scenario.
Yeah, no, if you get technical, it's fine. I'll pull you back, but I know that that's exactly when you thrive. That's when you're at your best, and that's when I see your heart sing, Coach, when you get technical. So feel free to share the knowledge. I think it's fantastic, and it's something that I have seen, particularly at schoolboy rugby level, which is concerning, that you see a team play towards a pattern. You call it a traditional rugby pattern. We're in our 22, we're going to slow things down, we're going to kick for distance. And yes, it is important to play safe. But do you think that this growing need to win also lends itself to a lot of the excitement being coached out of young players? Coaches don't necessarily want to be high risk. They want to get the results.
Yes, X, that's a brilliant question. I promise you, my mate, when I work with coaches and I start, the very first thing I pick up is the immense pressure they're under of winning and results, and it's all about winning. And that's what I loved with our days at the Lions with Johan Ackerman. What a brilliant man from God, great guy.
What
He's
a guy.
with me now again. He's with me now again at SA Rugby, and I love that. But you know, when we arrived there, we had the philosophy of how much is the pressure. John Mitchell before us was the brilliant, most clever technical coach that you could have found. But the players played under instruction and fear. And the very first thing we had to do is break the shackles. And as I said earlier, you know, so yeah, for me, that will always be a thing. Whenever I go, I call it, I'm a principal coach, meaning what should you do to have fun and to play and beat up opponents and turn their shoulders and find spaces rather than to play to structure. And when I work with these coaches, to come back to your question, I pick up the sense from everyone, from the parents, from the body corporates, from the headmaster, everyone. It's just winning and winning and winning. So I half of my time I spend to time with coaches now to tell them, listen, I went through it. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it to add the pressure on you. You know, you lose the whole thing. And funny enough, once the players understand that it's not about winning or losing, it's about fun. The win comes. Like we had there at the Lions, if I refer back to a good benchmark, I was very fortunate there for 6-7 years. We had a thing up on our wall. We want to score tries that glorify God. That was what we played for. So we don't mind if we lose. And I still have the best mates that you can find from those years around. And when I saw Akkers now after a long time, it was just it's like the prodigal son almost. You know, it's just fantastic what you can achieve if you set the bar on the right things, X. And once you, a lot of the schools, they come back to me now and say, you thanks, because it's working. It is working. But you gotta turn around and walk. If you got used to the pressure and structure and must win, to turn that around, to walk away, it's sometimes at all cost. But I must say, the guys who's trying it, it's just fantastic. And I will always be one of the biggest advocates for fun and play and go and just express yourself and you know, play for audience of one, and that's my philosophy.
Yeah, I wonder how long you can keep that going, because you are now in the Springbok setup as well. People might forget, but you were there amongst Rassie's team. Um, and you obviously walked away from the game, I think, at a time where you needed to do that. But what was the role that you were meant to serve? Because I think of Swys de Bruin, attack coach, but also I look at what Rassie has selected in terms of his backroom staff and how he shifts coaches around, puts them in different situations. So Mzwandile Stick, I think, started by by coaching the your exit kicks, if I remember correctly. I know that's not what he does now. How important is that, though, that what Rassie is trying to do and spread the talent and the knowledge amongst that coaching pool?
Yeah, X, I just want to put this, clear this air properly. You know, I was there for 17 tests with them. It was fantastic. Rassie and myself are still on a very good wicket. And what happened with me when I walked away 2 weeks before the first World Cup was nothing to do with Rassie. He's marvelous. He gave me the first job. In fact, uh, 6 months ago, he gave me almost my last job in my career, you know, to be with the women and coach the coaches at an SA Rugby team. So, yeah, it was fantastic. I just want to clear that air. And then come back to Rassie. He's a genius. He's absolutely a genius. He's different. And that's what I love. He's totally different, but he's really, you talk about a genius in rugby. That's a genius, you know, how he utilizes his staff and how he do certain things. You speak about the one little thing about the move. Now, the move we practiced in 2019, and they only used it 2 years later in the World Cup, you know, and his whole method of how to make the bench special, the bomb squad idea. And he always said to me, why do we finish with the weakest team? The strongest team should finish. The problem was, does the players buy in? And I remember he said to Kwacha, if you come off the bench and make a difference, you'll play until you're 38. Imagine how much money you're going to make then. So he was so clever. and everything he does, he's clever. Like those lights he used in Free State, with that
Yes.
red, green, and stuff. That meant really nothing, man. It was just to fool the opponents. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's. I do a little presentation with coaches, how to think out of the box, Rassie's 10 secrets, and man, oh man, do the coaches enjoy those little things, that he did. And one thing from Rassie, that people might see the serious side. We had so much fun and so much laughter at stage, it was scary. So don't confuse the fact that I had mental breakdown at that stage, and nothing to do with them. It was a problem that
Mm.
I had to overcome, and I did overcome it. So I just want
Uh,
to make that excellent.
Yeah, and I always value how openly and honestly you reflect on that in a world, in a time where especially young men might find it difficult to talk about these things. So, Coach, keep talking about it, and we've had this conversation a couple of times before, and I think it's invaluable. Um, Obviously there's going to be in the world of coaching is not linear, and this is one thing that I appreciate about you guys who actually go out and coach, because you would think that you start at school, you graduate to maybe an age group provincial team, and then maybe you get a nice big fat contract and you coaching a provincial side and a super rugby side and then an international side, but it doesn't work like that. It's a matter of up and down, and you always seem to focus back on the juniors, and I know you also went back to Free State University as well, helped them in the Varsity Cup, which I think was absolutely phenomenal. Do you
They
like that
won.
though,
They won.
or well, they won, yeah, the reigning champions. Do you like that though, or is it disruptive to know that you could be doing really well the one moment, and then you have to consider coaching a club side, a school side, or whatever the case may be, and that uncertainty which lasts until even now. I don't think you would have thought that you'd find yourself with the Springbok women's team if I'd asked you a year ago.
Yeah, no. You talk about the Springbok women team, and I would tell the story. I can't properly handle one woman, and I've got 40. So, that for me is a great challenge. But to come back to your question, amazing. Team, if people ask me, what do you remember in my 35 years in rugby coaching, what I do remember is when a player phones me and says, "Coach, thanks for that," or "You made a difference," or those things. That's for me a special. That serving sort of mentality. I enjoy that. My teams that I was fond of, I mentioned that team at the school. That first Sharks team was unreal, because we were a bunch of school leavers, 18, 19, and playing on 21 competition. And yeah,
Mm.
so for me, it's not about the higher you go, the better you should feel. Almost the opposite. There's nothing more fulfilling to me if I drive to the countryside and I spend time with a primary school, and I know after 2 days there with their coaches, I've made a difference, and the feedback. And it's mates for life, man. Then for me, it feels like I'm fulfilling my God-given purpose on earth, is to make a difference. And I always say, for me, it's almost my spiritual ministry that I run, in the sense of making a difference, spreading God's word and talking and sharing. And then rugby is just the vehicle. And once you install those things, if I tell you now the conversations I have with my ex-Lions players, it is just fantastic, the bond that we have. I had the other day
Yeah.
a conversation with Warren Whiteley. Him and Philip Lemon, Joey made a little video on my birthday, and just that, and I played it to my wife, and I was crying of say that's what it's about.
Yeah.
The Otherwise, I don't want to be remembered for trophies. What is a trophy? A trophy is a thing you enjoy for one night, and gives you more money, I suppose, which is not too shabby. But
Not too
I
bad.
want to. I Not too bad. Well, Rassie often said to me, after when you said he's got a problem, I said, "What's the problem, Rassie?" He said, "My bank account is full again." So, and we laugh, a joke about. Yeah, for me, I really enjoy it more if I know I made a difference in someone's life, and not just a difference, spiritually a difference in his rugby and improving him and making him better with the talent. I love it when his talent that is given as a 4 out of 10 and you can take it to a 7. That for me is fulfilling. Cups is
Mm.
rewarding, trophies is rewarding, but to make a difference in life is 10 times more rewarding, 10 times. And that's why I enjoy the women rugby so much. And I talk a lot now when it comes to them, because there's a field for so much growth and love and playing and passion. It's new for them. Some of our girls are not even used to staying in hotels, man. They appreciate stuff so differently. If you drive in a luxury bus, bus comes off, so say, thanks, coach, it's so nice. So they've got an attitude of gratitude. And I love that. We're 12th, rated 12 in the world. We're doing well. We scored 4 tries against Australia in the last tournament, and in the past
That
we
was
couldn't
amazing.
score 1. Yeah, so they're understanding what we want, and they're just unreal. Women's rugby is fantastic as far as I'm concerned, because you sit with a bunch of players who's got a learnable spirit, and man, they love the physical stuff. They want to jaw. I thought for starters, let's just play semi. Yeah, no, they go, Poppy. There's no holding back.
Yeah,
And it's fun, and
yeah,
I've got a
yeah, yeah.
brilliant management with me. So for me, after so many years at this age of my life, to be involved with the women's rugby, and it was all Rassie. He said to me in 2018, when I'm finished as my swan song, he's got to get me in the right situation and set up. So SA Rugby, I want to thank him and Dave Wessels and Rian and all the guys, that they said to me, Swys, you've gone through a lot. This is now, let's now really go big with the women. They're 12 now.
Given
Let's see.
Yeah, given what you said, and we've got questions coming in, which I always love. I love it when people ask questions, and it's going to take me away from the women's rugby, but we will go back shortly. And the question is about regret, and I think I know what your answer is going to be. And the question is, do you regret walking away from the Boks just before the World Cup?
Sometimes initially, and I had to go and see someone to help me mentally cope with my decision. But funny enough, my decision, I don't regret it, because my dad, he was an ex-policeman years back, and he used to say to me, a real man, if you sometimes if it's not in what you believe, and it's not in your philosophy, you got to walk away. And it's tough initially. And when you walk away, it's at all cost. I never thought I would have any job in rugby again if you walk away from the Boks. But on my way
Mm,
back, and I got a call from Supersport. You want to be an analyst? So it was fantastic 5 years. So there's always new doors opening, but regrets walking away at this stage, maybe at stages, I do catch myself. It was a couple of weeks before the World Cup. The final 2 tries they scored there with a counter attack system and stuff we worked so hard on, and that for me was the
yeah,
reward. And it was always tough for me to leave, but I had to do it. If I didn't leave there, and the guy who worked with me to sort my head out did say to me, if I didn't walk away there, I might have not been sitting here, because I was not in a good space at that stage.
mm,
And I share that with my kids. It's like a pressure cooker. You got to take the lid off. I talk about it freely
yeah,
now. Then I couldn't. Everything within me, I wanted to attack much more and play and have
yeah,
fun. And Faf and Willie Leroux and the players wanted it as well. But Jacques is very conservative, and he convinced. He almost, I don't want to say, Rassie knew that we must go more conservative with a boxy game, with a pressure game. And attack was a bit
yeah,
sidelined. Now added added with my physical, mental state at that time. Remember one thing, I was then head coach at the Lions. So
yeah.
2018, I was 25 away from home, ex. You would
But
you
you were
would
doing two
arrive at,
full-time jobs. You were doing two
yeah,
full-time jobs, Swys.
that's the thing. So burnout was on the table for me. And to be the attack coach of the Springboks is a massive, massive task. So a few little incidents happened that made my decisions clear. It's time to move on, and
Mm,
at all cost. And I'm not. sometimes I feel, yeah, maybe I should have stayed. But then thinking what happened afterwards and how the doors have opened for me
Yeah.
afterwards, it's a big blessing. It's a massive, massive blessing. And yeah, but the Springbok side and the culture of those guys is unreal. They're fantastic. But I think I became Coach Keeler #1 in my little world,
Right.
because I'll tell you why. I wanted I wanted to play a certain style, and I was so adamant to play it. And Jar convinced me and convinced everyone that if you play conservative, you tackle well, you box well, you will win the World Cup. And yeah,
Mm.
I battled a bit with that philosophy, I must say. But in hindsight, I eat humble pie. They won it, and yeah. So, but it's fine. I'm glad for everyone. No regrets. Very thankful. You know what I do remember of the fun and
Yeah.
the enjoyment parts of when I was the Springboks. It's a happy camp that, and through Shia's leadership and Rassie's brilliance, it's a fantastic setup there. X.
Yeah, certainly has seen a bit of a change. I think when we think about the mental pressure, the stress that's associated with rugby, we tend to think about it in terms of the players being selected, being dropped, retiring, injuries, and that sort of thing. But I think it was John Dobson. It was Dobbo. Probably 10 years ago, I remember we were having lunch and somebody had asked him if he was keen on taking the Stormers job at the time, and he was Currie Cup coach. And Dobbo said, "No, I'm too young. If I get fired now, I'll have to make a move that can supplement this income and my kids and family and school." So to find that you're still so excited about new opportunities for me is absolutely fantastic. You speak about Rassie, you speak about the enjoyment. How much has the culture changed in the Springbok setup since Rassie?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. He installed a few things. The very first thing he installed it. It's not about you. It's about the team.
Hmm.
It's not a. It was a no-moan policy from the word go. He often gave the speech about entitlement, and he refers to himself when he was a player. He was arrogant. He thought it was about him, and so he installed a culture that was about South Africa. About he used to love examples of Mapimpi, where he comes from, where this one comes from, how we one nation now. So he ticked as far as that's concerned, he ticked the right boxes. He did a couple of
Mm.
things that was very great. For the culture. There is a few things that I personally is not in my culture and style of coaching, and I think they know
Yeah,
it. You know, for me, I rugby is second, God is first. I wear a little armband that says I'm second and God is first. And we had a thing at the Lions, for example, a small little thing. We didn't enjoy the swearing. If someone swears in a joke, just to build team spirit, come and do 10 push-ups, because Akkers and myself didn't enjoy that aspect of living and coaching and stuff. So, and you saw chasing the sun, that was, but that's no, I don't come and say that was wrong. Otherwise, I'm a hypocrite.
mm,
I just say a few little things maybe now and then happened that was hitting me in my grain, that I
yeah,
didn't associate with. But saying that, let's not look at that. If you look at what they did achieve and how, and I spoke to Sia the other day, he came to greet me down in Cape Town, and just he said to me, the culture is back. They're there. They do the right things. They know God is there to protect them. He said to me, the Bible study group is back on, and that's the little things I relate with. And I want to be real. I want to enjoy my red wine. I want to tell jokes, but I always want to know. It doesn't matter if I coach under tens or the Currie Cup at the Lions or the Springboks. I am second. I can never be
yeah.
first or think. And if you understand what I'm saying, if we go a bit deep now, it's okay. I like to go deep with these things.
Yeah, I think it's very important how you think about the culture in a team, especially one that's diverse. And I'm pretty sure that what you now with the Springbok women's team must be slightly different to what you've experienced with the professional men's sides of the past. How different is it coaching women's rugby? I mean, obviously the fundamentals remain the same, but I do know that women tend to do some things better than men. So they do respond a lot more to, I think, a positive environment. And I think it actually helps the performance, whereas guys are very methodical and you must be in your head and think about the move. And, I'm sure that's a new thing for you to experience. And again, the diversity is a big thing.
X, you know what? You're so right. What you said. Women, if they feel good and laugh and sing in the week, and they're all at a happy place, they play well. Where men, if they're serious and everyone's quiet and there's silence on the bus and you focus and you see the grid, you see it in the eyes, they enjoyed it when they're like that and after the game. If men are happy after a good one, the girls are happy before the game. It's amazing
Right.
how they think. I remember on my first trip to a test with the ladies. We drove to Cape Town Stadium, and we get off. I called Bafana, my assistant. I said, "We're in trouble. They think it's bloody fun and games. What the hell?" He said, Swys, that's how they operate." And I thought, okay. And now I encourage the singing. That's what they do. They love it. So the more relaxed they are, the more they're at a good place, the better but they perform. And with the men, we would say, oh, they're overconfident. Oh, they haven't got. We think we
Mm.
arrived.
Yeah.
And then lose, So the preparation and the result for the two groups are totally different. What I do know about the
Yeah.
women, they've got it's new for a lot of them, and they got such a learnable spirit. So you can tell them, you can not rubbish, you can tell them run through the wall, man, and they will.
Mm.
It's they won't ask questions. Where men is much more, yeah, but coach, what about? What if? There's no what ifs there. It's interesting. I love it.
Yeah, I love that today is about getting into the mind of a coach, because I would imagine that you walk into that setup with the Springbok women's team and already you're surrounded by history. I think Springbok women do value the set piece. They're proud of the scrum. They're proud of their physicality. In walks Swys, the space eater, who's going to say, near, near, near. The space is right here in your 22, and you all of a sudden blowing people's minds, and they're thinking, "No, this is not what we've been coached." What is the first thing you do? You walk into that change room, and maybe context for people listening. Bafana Ntleko, who's been with SA Rugby now for a number of years, was also with the Lions. Incredible coach, one of the best junior coaches I think we've seen in decades. Very successful, and then you come in. What is that first conversation with your coaching group? What do you say about trying to convince them to change the fundamental core philosophy of a national team? What did you say in that
You
meeting?
know, Yeah, X, you say that Bev, I've coached junior rugby. He was with us at the Lions. Great coach. Great coach. One of the best I've worked with, and he loves his defense and stuff. Yeah, Bev is fantastic.
Mm.
And Lorian Haupt is the first women's coach, and she does the scrums. She's the first
Scrums
women's
coach, yeah.
coach that's full SA Rugby ever. So that is a starter for us. And then Franzel, September, is a fantastic guy, forward coach. So plus the rest of the management, I've got very good coaches there. But I asked them, all right, guys, let's sit down. What is the strength? How do we traditionally play? We looked at a few clips, and the answer was very clear. Coach, we scrum
Mm.
more, we scrum for penalties, then we maul. And we maul for penalties. And then if they've got the ball, we tackle and we tackle and we tackle. I said, and when do we play rugby? What do you mean? That's rugby. I said, no, that's not rugby. So I worked out they couldn't hold the ball for more than 3 to 5 phases in most of the tests that we analyzed. And we got them
Mm.
now in the last competition, Australia. We scored 4 tries, and we have over 5 times kept the ball in the last World WXV series. We kept the ball. I
Yeah.
think it was 5 times in 20 phases. So that was the very first thing that I thought, okay, if we can start adding, if you scrum well, if you maul well, if you like to tackle, let's just add a bit of a attack spice. And then the very first thing, they're so physical, and that's what I just taught them how to pick and go and play through the middle, and that led to the first couple of guys. And the skill level doesn't have to be high. You just shout over, pilot,
Yeah.
they just
Yeah.
flying in and take people out and clear out. Yeah, and that sort of led to them understanding, right, we've got the opponents sucked in now. The tight forwards are in. Now it's time to spread it wide. And
Yes.
that led to a few lovely tries. We beat Japan for the first time ever. We beat
Yeah.
Spain, I don't know in how many years. We narrowly lost with 1 point against Australia. Couldn't score a try
Well,
ever against them. And
you'd never scored against them before. Like the Springbok women have never scored a try against Australia until that game, and then you took 4.
we took 4, and we nearly one pass away. It could have been history. But listen, let's get back to reality. Let's not be on cloud nine. We have to play Italy, which we lost with 2 points. We got to play them in the World Cup now in August. And if we can beat them, first Brazil, that we must win. And if we can beat Italy, there's a chance to be top 8. And if we can be top 8 with this, ladies, for us, in a sense, it's like winning our own little World Cup. That'll be fantastic. So that's the aim, X. I'm not saying we're going to do it, but we're going to turn every possible stone around to see if we can get it there. And I'm watching them now. Man, they improved team. They've got a new coach, Italy. They lost against England, but England, Canada, New Zealand, France, man, they're in a different day. They've played since they could walk, those ladies. When the girls play, when the Black Ferns play the England Roses, they fill up Twickenham. So that it shows you where are we at this stage, and there's a lot of mind shift that we still got to make. That it is a fantastic game for women. It's not. A lot of my mates and stuff said, "No, man, it's rugby and women, highball. That doesn't work." Let's not go there. And I tell you what, I want to prove them so game for them. They love it. It's a game about friends, about opportunities, about so many things, which they thrive in.
Yeah, no, I think if you criticize women's rugby, it's probably because you haven't watched a lot of it. It's frenetic. The pace is right up there. And what I also find with women's rugby is that the handling skills, I think, are probably at times a step above what you see with the big international men's sides. And who knows if that's to do with the integration of maybe netball coaching for a lot of the women when they're at a young age. And making that shift obviously means that they have an absolute understanding of sense and space and passing, the strength of passing. I really think it does look slightly different to the men's game, and maybe it flows a little bit more, or am I misreading it and have I got rose-tinted glasses on Swys? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I drink too much red wine.
No, which is nothing wrong with. So yeah, no, I must say their skill level is much better than anticipated. And it's like netball. You got to find space the whole time. You got to hide. You got to hide to find space. Now they bring that to rugby, and the same with a lot of them played hockey, and a lot of them understand the ball sports of it. A section of it. It's about finding the right people, putting people away in space, and that comes. That is definitely. You know what I haven't seen since I've been involved with women's rugby? There's no little brawls taking place, a little fist bump here, a
Right.
little grab there. They sort of clean, eh? They're much more cleaner and clinical. And if I say to them, tackle her under the sternum, I think we had 2 high tackles, which were slip-off tackles in 4 or 5 games. So discipline-wise and enjoyment-wise, the men can learn from them in certain things. So they really loving it, and they're up there to make a difference. And they want to make the country proud as well. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So far they've done so well, and you've got a couple of really talented players, and You saw on the screens earlier that Nadine Roos is the Women's Player of the Year, but someone like Libby Janse van Rensburg also showing incredible skills. Baba Lalaja, the captain, and she leads like one, and she is unbreakable and unbeatable. It was interesting to me to see a Nadine come through the ranks. Unreal the level of quality and how much it's had to improve, Swys, in the last couple of years, considering we don't have the same systems in place for young girls at school. We don't have a Craven Week equivalent. We don't have a lot of things. So these girls really have to put in the effort outside of a set uh, uh, program, I suppose, to develop.
Absolutely. We are so far behind. There is schools playing girls rugby now. The Varsity Cup, thankfully, is playing now. But if you look at if you look at our provincial or franchise structure, the Bulls is the only real professional side. They beat all the teams by 60, 70, 80 points. They play now in the final this Saturday against Western Province, but they beat Western
That's right.
Province 69 in the pool stages. So for me now, I asked the question that people say it's great, just pick all the Bulls, but they haven't learned now. For me, in the last couple of and then the last tournament, how to defend, because they just attack and smash people and run over them.
That's
So we need, and that's one of the things Dave Wessels is going to work hard on. Man, I rate him as our leader and with the structures and the stuff. And Dave Wessels, he's going to make sure that some way we've got now, they professionally paid a lot of them now from SA Rugby. But we've got to get the balance spread that we've got 4 teams that can beat one another on a given day, or 5 or 6. Once we can have
yeah.
this nation, and well done for the Bulls, and I take my hat off, Edgar Rathbone and Tom Dumanana and the guys, you're fantastic because your players. But for me, we really want to make inroads in women's rugby. We got to get the franchise rugby right. It's got to be competitive within the competition. What helps me a lot,
Yeah.
we've got 4 girls that play in Europe now, and 5 in fact, and we've got the 7 aside girls, Nadine and them. So that influence helps us. But I'm a positive guy, but we need to get the franchise rugby more competitive. Then you'll
Yeah.
see where women's rugby will, and it'll really grow from place to place. We need to follow the Blue Bulls model somehow because they're
Yeah.
professional and doing it.
Yeah, it's good that they can get contracts. And I saw in your last camp, which I think you're going into another camp now in April, in a couple of next week already. And what I saw is that there were a couple of girls that you got coming from the UK. Is that an option for a young rugby player, a female rugby player? Maybe look elsewhere, try and get that skill if at least you could be picked up by a club.
For sure, for sure. We don't want all our girls to play there, but it's wonderful for
Yeah.
those girls that played to bring back the knowledge and what they've learned there back to the system. But for me, we need that. We do need the sevens influence, for especially from a skills point of view. But what we mostly need is a competitive structure from all the franchises. That's what we mainly need.
Yeah, you speak about sevens. I just looked at the clock and I can't believe we've been talking for almost an hour. It's gone so fast, and I feel like I only went through half my questions, Coach. But it's fine. It's fine. There is sevens coming up this weekend. It is Hong Kong. The Blitzboks are 4th on the HSBC sevens standings. They've never won in Hong Kong. It's been so frustrating over the years. I love the game of sevens. I've been to that Hong Kong stadium, amazing vibe, but it's no longer. They've moved to a brand new stadium, and they're in a very difficult group. Anytime you get selected against Australia and New Zealand in a pool, do you think? Do you think they've got a chance? Do you think they could maybe sneak one? Their first Hong Kong sevens?
Man, I spoke to Philip and I wished him well. And the way they train and the intensity and the amount of work they put in, I see that anything can happen with the team glory wise, because they are such a tight group, and with great coaching, with the guys they've got around there, from Ashley Everett and all the guys there. It's a great setup, and just a bit of time and patience. let's hope it comes now already. But as you said, it's a bloody tough pool they've got to face now. But just talking
Yeah.
about pools and rugby, our ladies are playing in camp next week, and then we depart to England. We play an England under 2023 team, and we've got a practice session against France where we're going to have simulated scrums and lineouts, and then another test against Spain. Now, we're virtually the same ranked as Spain, so that'll be a big indicator for me and coaches to see where are we at this stage, you know. And
And
if
then
we can, that'll be good.
that will help you identify for the World Cup, I guess.
Yes, and then after the World Cup, we've got the Africa Cup, which will be in Madagascar. I think we're going to send more development team there, all the girls that we want to check out. And then the big one is we play 2 tests against New Zealand A side, and then the full-on Canada side 2 tests. And those 4 will be curtain raisers for the Springboks, which is fantastic. It just shows you what SA Rugby, Rian and all the guys are prepared, and Rassie especially, prepared, to do for women's rugby. We're second rated now in the ranking, above sevens and above under 20s. So for this year, we're second rated from SA Rugby side. So it's going to be huge and fantastic. Can't wait.
Yeah, I love the idea of getting 2 test matches for the price of one, to watch the women and then watch the Springboks play after. I think is such a win for any rugby fan. And if you've never had the opportunity to watch women's rugby, it's definitely worth it. Stace, before I let you go, got URC coming up this weekend. Six Nations is done. What do you make of France? How big they were, their performance, them utilizing and trying to master the bomb squad in the 7-1 split. Yeah, your thoughts.
Firstly, I think they're all a bunch of copycats. Eh? They moan about Rassie's plans, all of them, and then they
They
copy
complain all the time.
that. The more they moan, and then a week later they copy. I love that. So Rassie must be enjoying every bit of that. Yeah. Now talk about France. They're always sort of good in somewhere in between the 2 World Cups. And same with Ireland. Now I'm just saying
Yeah,
that tongue in the cheek. France is brilliant. Dupont is just in a class of his own, I believe. A lot of guys say no, this or he is just really unreal. But saying that, with him injured now, they're still producing. I think
yeah,
I think as they carried too long with the same top players who's past their sell-by dates, and I'm not so sure the guys that are moving in will be up there. So I might be wrong, but I think that England on the other side, they under
yeah,
Borthwick, we all thought it chaos, but he's doing something right. There's some
yeah,
certain things that they do in the side that I enjoy. Yeah, and then the Welsh, and I hear Nigel Owens says now they've got to be in Six Nations and not Georgia, which I wonder, shouldn't the best one be there, or doesn't matter who you are, the best team should be there, isn't it?
yeah. I absolutely agree. And the Georgians have come on in leaps and bounds. Their scrum is phenomenal, and I think they actually go out and entertain crowds as well. I worry about the Welsh. Um, Before I let you go, British and Irish Lions tour, Australia also, they've been in dire straits. They lost Joe Schmidt, talking about coaches. And, he's a very impactful coach. And he, I think, like you, is a very critical thinker about the way in which teams attack. And they probably needed to be that kind of team, Australia, where you're not going to dominate anybody physically. You need to outsmart them. Now they've lost Joe. What do you see for the future? And considering the British and Irish Lions are coming to town.
Man, that's going to be fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I enjoy the big Irish influence that Farrell did pick on his management. And I think we'll see the same player wise when the team is selected. But talk about Australia. It's a sad thing that happened. It's a lot of pressure as well, off field stuff for Joe Smith, why he's not carrying on. But I still sad that Dave really didn't have a longer shot at it with the style of rugby they
Mm,
played. But you're so right. They're not physical. They don't have the firepower of dominating and scrumming and mauling. So you need someone there who thinks out of the box for them. And that's why I say it's sad Joe Smith is away, because we all know, how thorough and how good and out of the box thinker he is.
Yeah, we're looking at some fixtures and some rugby champs coming up. URC as well. It's a critical stage. And I don't know how you feel about this, but what I saw in the URC, very, very, very happy to see Sasha Feinberg Ngomezulu back. And I think you would be a proponent of what he brings to a Springbok side or a Stormers side. Much like I know you, like me, are a bit of a fan of Mani Libbok and how he's able to change the shape of a team. But what I saw with the Sharks and what I saw with the Bulls are two very physical sides, dominant scrums, but then still struggling to score the points with. Like, what is the point of all of this physical dominance if you're not going to get the tries?
Yeah, 100%. I got to watch my words now, answer your question. Let's rather be positive. I
Absolutely.
do like
Sure.
Sasha Feinberg, Zulu kind of players, and Mani. And all my life, I remember those players, the X Factor players, even if they make mistakes. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. But I do something well. I just love it. I'm a bit concerned that we mustn't fall to, and I put my foot a bit in trouble now, that we can't just go the physical route again with the Sharks. And I really, and I say it respectfully, I want to see those teams attack better and more, and not just rely on physical dominance the whole time. If we don't
They
scrum
got
them
good
for a
attacking
penalty, what?
players, both sides.
Yeah, man, and I just feel, and I got to be very careful what I say now as well to you, but I just feel somehow they got to look at both those teams at their attacking systems and style how they play, because the rest is there. They are physical. They are good in set play, those things, but for me, I like the lines. The lines are, and not from historical point of view. They are 13th on the log, but they play the rugby I want to watch. And
Yeah.
if they can have a good home run, they can still make top 8. So the South
Yeah.
African teams are there. Well,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think in terms of watchability, the Lions are definitely up there, and they remind me now of what the Cheetahs have been through the years, and I feel desperate for the Cheetahs. I feel desperate for the Pumas. I feel desperate for Griquas. I mean, these teams have got some great talent in them. But nowhere really to showcase their talent except for limited opportunities and limited tournaments. So that's also something that I think SA Rugby is, I know, working on. But it's difficult to know that you've got rugby players sitting in Nelspruit for 7 or 8 months of the year and no rugby to play.
yeah, that's tough. When you speak to Jimmy and those guys, and Frans Steyn will see how tough it is, and Piet Berg down in Kimberley, it's tough. It's tough. But you know what the people say? It is professional sport. It is strength versus strength. And it is sad for them. But I personally has always been a big advocate of strength versus strength, 4 teams or 6 teams. But we need to find some other place for them to play. You're right. That's so important. But in South African rugby and rugby globally, if you've got too many teams down South Africa playing at the high level, how the hell are you going to fit all the games in? There's already too much rugby. So that for me is a bigger issue for the guys organizing the whole thing. How can we get less rugby? Because rugby connoisseurs and lovers sometimes not even watch anymore because it's just too much.
Yeah,
I don't hear what I'm saying, X.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I had this conversation about club rugby and the role it probably should be playing in terms of allowing players opportunities. So if the level of club rugby and standard of club rugby was good enough to even pull in professional players as a conduit, maybe a way to come back from injury, play a couple of games for your local club, get fans excited to see some big name players. Maybe that's something we need to put a little bit more emphasis on from a South African point of view. Swys, it's been an hour. I'm not going to let you go because this has been about coaches. And one of the questions everybody has is, what now after rugby? After Rassie, sorry. Who's next? And I know there are a couple of contenders for that job. I think if I looked before Rassie came in and before you stepped in, it would have been slim pickings. But ek vee my oor uit, Swys, and I look around, and all of a sudden you mention that you've got Akkers back in the country. Brilliant coach. I saw Franco Smith, who did incredibly well in URC. Brilliant coach. Felix Jones back in the Springbok setup, and clearly a soft spot for South Africa. Brilliant coach. Johan van Graan getting some wonderful knowledge. Jacques Nienaber is still going to come back into the fold. How do you see this play out? And on my little list on the screen, you can see that I put in Mzwandile's stick because he's been in that setup now for, I don't know what it's been. It's been almost a decade. And then Dobbo, who I also mentioned as a brilliant coach, struggled this season, did the Stormers, but you can see what Dobbo is all about. And these are just a couple of names. It looks like there are options, but who best fits what the Springboks are about or trying to be about?
Man, yeah, firstly, coaches come with seasons and their people. Hardly ever you find that a coach carries on and he takes the assistant coaches of the previous regime. So what I think will happen and should happen, because if you appoint the coach, let's say they appoint Johan Ackerman, you will get the guys around him that he trusts, like Rassie did, can work with, and that he'll work the road with. So that for starters, now a guy like Stick, I will always back him. I worked with him. He is so good in what he does, and he's been 10 years or 11 years there with the guys. He knows every ins and outs. So for me, from a backline point of view, but then for me, I've got to say, Dobbo is doing so well. But Van Graan, if you go to Van Graan and Franco and Akkers as the head coach, and Stick involved there, and you might, but I don't want to personal mention names. I know a lot of these guys that say, "What about me?" or "What about that?" But
Sure.
it is very personal. But the fact that Johan Ackerman is back, he did so well there at the D-Rocks in Japan. He took them from B division up. They right stone last again after he left. So Akkers is just. I watched yesterday. I stood and watched the fourth session he did with under 20s. Man, oh man, what a session! So, but I'm the wrong guy to ask. I will just say let Ackerman, let Johan decide who's the guys with him, and from there. And he reminds me in a big way of a Rassie, different personalities, but the passion and he knows what boxes to tick to get the right results, to get the best out of players, play the biggest skill, and Akkers is one of those. And then saying that, Franco Smith, man, what he does with the limited resources is unreal. And then Van Graan takes an average Bath team with JP Ferreira as his defense coach. Isn't that interesting? Wherever JP goes, there's results. He was out of JP Ferreira, defense coach of
JP
the
Ferreira,
Lions. Wherever he goes, that side defense bloody well. So don't write JP Ferreira off, in my opinion, as a brilliant, brilliant defense coach. Then local guys, man. I like Joey Monkhale. How good is he? I worked with him as well. Then we mentioned Dobbo. There's good guys around, and I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that. If the Rassie time is over, the next guys I think will carry on and do
I
just
think I think it's always heartening to know that the future is bright, because we do place a lot of emphasis, and understandably so, on what Rassie has achieved with his current staff. But things will always change. Change is inevitable, and I do know that he's also thought about what comes next, and I think it's incredibly important. And lastly, before I let you go, we talking about coaching, getting into your mind as a coach. When do you know? Because you speak about Akkers, who obviously played professionally. It tells me that he was thinking critically about the game when he was a player. Brendan Fenter comes across to me as also one of those guys who, whilst playing, was almost half coaching his teammates. Rassie obviously was coming up with moves for Laurie Mains when he was playing for the Cats and he was captaining the Cheetahs. Was already coming up with match strategy. When do you know you've got the coaching bug? When do you know that this is something I need to follow up? I'm just thinking for any youngsters who might, love the game, but understand that playing might not be for them.
Like I said to Warren Whiteley now, I said, Waza, when you finish the rugby, you got to carry on. You're just too brilliant. You know the game too much. You love it too much. And he's doing well with the Sharks. Give him a chance, he'll come through. People don't know it. And 25 years ago, Rassie was with the Cheetahs, and I was coaching Griquas, and he did my he did my analysis for me at Griquas as a player for the. And then I knew, shit, this guy is special. He knows and loves the game better than you can think, And Akkers was with me at Griquas as well at a stage years back. And I had a forward section there with Darby Tron was the coach, and Akkers got involved in how to stop a line-out maul. And when Darby and myself walked off the field, I said, hell, this guy's got a knowledge second to none. So when a player, but a lot of times I think I played while I can suddenly coach. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You got to earn your
Yeah.
you got to make it assistant, or you got to earn your stripes properly, because coaching is much more than just running on the field and telling them what to do. It's often a mistake that players make. They think, I finished playing, now I can just coach. And they got to learn big lessons. I remember Victor Matfield was my forward coach at the Lions for a Currie Cup campaign, and he said, "Oh, yes, Coach, I never realized this is what it entails, And he's another guy. I think his rugby knowledge is the best that you can find. He is a brilliant forward coach. So if someone can convince him, listen, forget your money there at Supersport and start coaching. I said that he will now go places as a coach. I know it for a fact, because he's a true student of the game. But there's a lot of youngsters, man. I'm thinking Jonathan McQueen now, his rugby knowledge, and he played at a top level as well. A lot of those guys. I think of my own son, Neil. He's now director of he was with Akkers in Japan. Just listening to him talking, it's just fantastic to hear that the youngsters are doing so well in the game. And we're very blessed in this country with top coaches. Don't make a mistake. But to come back to your question, who's the next one? If I think, I think I'll say Johan Ackerman.
Yeah. You guys have got a very special bond, and I understand, because I think people also need to understand the context of where that Lions team came from. And you mentioned John Mitchell, and he was very crucial in turning results around. But there was a lot of friction in that squad, and I remember Josh Strauss leaving the team as the captain, and things were looking very, very difficult and tricky. And to go to, what was it, 3 Super Rugby finals in a row, from a team that was perennial strugglers, the team that people were taking top players from every season, for me, tells me that it's not about the players that you've got, it's about how you've coached them, and what a bond that they had and they still have, even now when you look at those past players. Phenomenal team. Do you think that was, and when I say success, I'm not measuring it in terms of trophies and in terms of results, do you think that was your most successful coaching stint?
Oh yeah, for sure. I loved it with the Springbok. I had glory days at the Sharks and at Griquas, but those when Akkers gave me the opportunity to be his right hand man, I just loved it. And where we started, 21 players left and we had no one. We had not one single Springbok there, and 2017 we had 11. So it just shows you what he did achieve there, and it was just absolutely fantastic. And and the mates and friendships from there. Cash was then our trainer, and I always said Cash is the best trainer in the world. And the players love to train for him and work with him. And he's growing now. He's growing. He's earning his stripes. But he knows now for a fact it's not so easy just to become the head coach. It is bloody tough. And but those glory days with the Lions can come back, because I love certain things that I see now again. I just need some consistency. If they can start winning away games like that, this last one they should have bloody won. Man, I was upset.
They really,
And
yeah.
yes, So if they start pulling those through, I remember in our days when we beat the Chiefs in Hamilton, we knew they were a massive team then. We beat them there, in Hamilton, and we start knowing we can win away. Once you can win away, you come home, the crowd, and everything carries you through. But you need the away victories for sure, and that's what Franco Smith is doing well with the Glasgow Warriors. He gets the away victories.
Yeah, and it's very hard mentally to win away. I've been to Hamilton to watch a match there, and they've got those cowbells around their necks, which make this crazy. And it's very distracting, and it's a small stadium, and it's a very passionate crowd. But I think I've seen it on tour a number of times. Teams that struggle at home under the spotlight and the pressure go away, become a tighter group, tighter unit, and they start winning in New Zealand, start winning in Australia, whatever the case is. Now, obviously, with URC, it's going to be in Europe. So that is very possible. And I think those are the moments that can turn a season around. So yes, I've just looked at the time. I've kept you on for too long. I know I have. I know you are surrounded by powerful women, but the most powerful woman is probably in the living room waiting for you to finish.
Oh, sure. No, she is the most powerful. X, just talking to you and what the rugby mates we've been for a long time. It's a blessing to share with you and talk with you, and what you're doing for rugby is second to none. I want to thank you for that as well. You're always so positive. You always want the best for everyone. It's so easy for you kind of guys to be negative, but you're just so flippant inspiring. It's wonderful. And I said it to you live personally, and I want to say it on this forum as well. God bless, and you keep on making a massive difference because you are doing it.
Swys is an absolute legenda, and yes, all I want to do is see South African rugby thrive and more people play the game, make it a truly global sport because it deserves even more than what it gives. Swys de Bruin, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for letting us into your mind, into your background, into your living room. We're going to speak again soon because there's a World Cup coming up. Hopefully you'll have the time to chat to us, and that you are the second person that we speak to on that Rugby Union Show should tell you how much in high regard I hold you, and I appreciate you, Swys. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you so much. God bless, Alex.
Cheers. And to everybody at home, thank you for joining us. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We want to get to 2,000 subscribers as soon as possible. Share this conversation. Even if you miss the lives, we are on every Thursday at 7 o'clock. That's South African time. But even if you miss it, we'll be up on YouTube, and do check out the socials as well. Cheers, everyone.